shooting, I'll talk a little bit about the uniforms because everybody here is wearing something just a little bit different. So I'll start off with you two on the end here. Adam and Ryan are both representing members of the militia. Now the good question is, who's on whose side? This is because both forces in the War of 1812, be they British or American, made extensive use of the militia. This is because they had a lot of people to come out for it. To be in the militia, you're a citizen of either country between the ages of 16 and 65 here in Canada, 18 and 45 in the United States, and you have to come out to a fort like this once a year to prove that you can load and fire these muskets 3 times without assistance. If you do that, you're in the militia. But to ensure that you actually come out to these musters, they're going to give you free beer, food, and fireworks throughout the day. It's usually held on a holiday. So these guys are not the best trained troops, but they are still given the great equalizer, a musket. They're put in line with everybody else, and they're fighting hard to defend their homes and their families. So you do not want to underestimate them. However, they're not given a uniform, because so many people on either side are in the militia, it's impossible to outfit them all. And so what they're wearing is just what all of you are wearing. A hat, a jacket, jeans for the time period. So at different battles, the militia are going to find different ways to identify themselves. In some battles, they would wear red armbands or hat bands, or in some cases, the New York militia would just take off their hats. It would ensure that hopefully only one side is going to start taking shots at you. On the other side of the battlefield, though, are some more regular troops. Alex here is representing a member of the Régiment de Watteville, very British-sounding regiment. The de Wattevilles are a Swiss mercenary regiment in British service. They're made up of more than just Swiss nationals, however. As Napoleon conquers his way across Europe, any of the defeated armies still want to fight. So they're going to join up in émigré regiments like the de Wattevilles. The British are going to give them muskets and uniforms and send them back in line. The de Wattevilles fight mostly in Europe against Napoleon's forces, but when they arrive here for the siege of Fort Erie in 1814, they're speaking upwards of 5 different languages in the ranks, including French, German, Italian, Spanish, Polish, and pretty much anything else you'll find in Europe at the time. So they are a very multicultural regiment that fights extensively here at the siege of Fort Erie. Their counterpart across the battlefield is what I'm representing, a member of the U.S. Infantry. Now everybody's expecting to see the rather typical blue coat with the red cuffs and collars, a lot of nice decoration around it. But that's an expensive coat. That's because blue dye is one of the single most expensive dyes that you can get at the time. And the Americans are getting most of their money and most of their blue dye from the British, who they are currently at war with in 1812. So by 1813, they have to cheapen the uniform a little bit to try and reduce costs. They take away a lot of the decoration, the blue dye starts to disappear, so the coats get darker and darker. And eventually by 1814, the only thing that the Americans can afford is a simple gray work jacket. It's not the nicest uniform around, and definitely not what the recruiters are promising the troops, but it is keeping everybody uniform on the battlefield, and the 1st Brigade of the American Infantry in these gray coats did rather well. They're well trained and well led, and at battles like Chippewa and Lundy's Lane, they would either beat the British outright or fight them to a standstill, something their blue-coated counterparts had not managed at any point in the War of 1812. But a lot of people look at the uniforms that you see here, and they think that the militia is a little bit more sensical. Wear something green or a little more subdued, you can hide in the forests. That makes a lot of sense today. Who in their right mind is going to dress like the British or the French? Stand out there in a big, bright uniform, tall, goofy-looking hat, and this big shoot-me-here X in the middle of your chest. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it does when you consider the weapons that we're all carrying. Guys, I'll give you a closer look at what they got. Yep. So we have 2 versions of the brown vest. Adam's got my Springfield to show you. It's the American weapon.
You want me to hold it?
They look a little bit different, but they function the same as all muskets you're going to find here today, from the French Charleville to the Baker rifles that the British companies have. That side pan is where you start loading a flintlock weapon. You're going to put a small charge of gunpowder there. You're going to close up this pan, send the rest of the charge down the barrel. You then have to rely on some pretty exact science. Every time you pull this trigger, a piece of flintstone is going to fly forward and hit a steel pan. Charge in the pan, that's going to light the charge in the barrel, and hopefully that's going to send a half-inch lead ball screaming down range at your opponent. There's a whole lot of hopefullys involved with a weapon like this. They're not particularly incredibly reliable. On the best of conditions, on a dry day without much wind, you have about a 1 in 5 misfire rate. So 20% of the time, you're going to pull the trigger, and the only thing you're going to hear is a loud, resounding click out of your weapon. The other issue is they're not particularly accurate. They're smoothbore weapons. The inside of this musket's barrel is as smooth as the outside. The diameter of that lead ball is also smaller than the caliber of the gun. So when you pull that trigger, that lead ball is just going to bounce around down the barrel. If it hits on the right side, it's going to veer off to the left. And at about 100 yards, you can miss your intended target at up to 9 feet in any direction. So how are you going to fight with a weapon this inaccurate and this unreliable? Well, everybody's seen the depictions. You put everybody shoulder to shoulder, stand them up on the battlefield, you all point and shoot at the same time. This means hopefully 80% of your muskets are going to go off, and somebody in your line is going to hit somebody on the other end. And now you get to a third problem, and that's why we all wear these bright, elaborate uniforms, and that's smoke. Black powder puts out a lot of smoke per shot. We have hundreds of muskets firing on the battlefield at once, dozens of pieces of artillery. On a humid day, it doesn't take too long for these battlefields to become so covered in smoke that the first time you can see and identify your target is around 20 paces away, the distance all of you are from our troops here. That's not a lot of time to identify who's coming through the smoke. Luckily, in the Niagara region, if you see blue, you automatically know it's American. If you see red, you automatically know it's British. If you see gray, green, a militia jacket, or any other color coming through that smoke, nobody's got any clue what side you're on. Because this is war, they're just going to shoot first and not even bother with the questions. So if you want to survive in a battle in 1812, you're going to wear the brightest, most elaborate uniform you possibly can. This ensures that hopefully only your enemy are going to start taking shots at you. I'm going to ask on this side, just kind of tuck in around this way a little bit. We are shooting, so it'll give you a bit of a better view. And I'll run these guys through 2 different loads here for you. Hook plate cartridge, load! So we'll go step by step, you can see how these weapons work. Handle, cartridge! You take out 1 pre-made tube of gunpowder, bite off the end, and spit it out at the enemy. Try, which looks a lot more intimidating with 100 people in line, I assure you. You then fill up the pan on the side and get ready for the next step. Cast about! Put the weapon around. You throw the rest of the paper powder down the barrel. If there was a bullet, it would be in the paper with it. Draw, ramrod. You then have to use a ramrod because black powder, when it's burned, leaves a thick, tarry substance known as fouling. Ram down, cartridge. And you have to get that bullet to the bottom of the breech, so you have to use a ramrod to get down there, otherwise it's just not going to make it. Return, ramrod. But you do have to take the ramrod back because it is needed for each shot, and it is awkward to ask for it back from your enemy. Shoulder, arms. Make ready! So just like that, they're ready to go. This is a real gunpowder. It's now the time to plug your ears if you like. When I yell fire is when they're going to hit the trigger on their gun. It's a good time to hit the trigger on your camera. If you miss the first shot, we will have a second. Present! Fire! Time to load! As you can see, Ryan is loading on the knee. You can load these guns kneeling or lying down, but it takes twice as long to do so. Army regulations on both sides said you have to do it in 15 seconds. If you're kneeling, it takes twice as long, and you're going to get less lead down range than your opponent. If you want to beat anybody in a battle at this time, you have to put more shots down range than they can. So it may not seem too safe standing up in face of all that incoming gunfire, but it ensures that you will live on to fight another day. Can I have a help of a younger volunteer, perhaps? Want to help out? No? Want to help out?
Yeah, sure.
All right, young at heart works too. So I'm going to put you in command as a sergeant here. When I point to you, I need you to yell fire as loud as you can. All right? 1 more shot here. Present! Go ahead.
Fire!
All right, spring up, spring rammers. A round of applause for the sergeant and our troops. You can see even on a windy day how much smoke is hanging in the air from 3 muskets. You can imagine how difficult it's going to be on a on a humid, still day. We'll turn you back over to the tour guide, Adam. He'll take you on through the fort. I hope you enjoy the demonstration. I hope you have a great day at Old Fort Erie. And don't forget, at 2 o'clock is going to be our battle for today, our battle reenactment. Stay to that.
That's going to be a small 3-pounder to off there.
Now, a 3-pound cannon is one of the smaller guns you would find for the time. Generally during the War of 1812, the range was a 1 or 2-pounder up to a 24-pound cannon. So it is a bit on the smaller end, but don't worry, it will make quite a loud bang. A small cannon like that can go through 17 men lined up in a line. So it can be quite deadly. And those 17 men, if you swear in the chest, because the body is a cavity, it'll make everyone go pop. So your ribs will fly out and impale any friends you do have beside you. So it is quite deadly just from their standard shot. Their standard shot will just be a solid iron cannonball. A 3-pounder will fire a 3-pound cannonball. 24-pound will fire 24 cannonballs. A 24-pound cannonball. It is quite standard, but it's not the only thing you can fire from these weapons. Another thing that was used here during the Siege of Fort Erie was known as canister or grape shot. So instead of one cannonball, they'll essentially be filling this thing with musket balls and buckshot. So now you're turning these weapons into giant shotguns, very deadly to infantry at close range. But here at Fort Erie, canister shot was used actually right in front of the fort, so behind the large walls behind you there. Now the British regiments who encountered this canister shot thought that the musket balls sounded like an angry swarm of bees coming towards them. And when it hit them, it sounded like tearing cloth rather than flesh. The next day, it was said that the men who died looked more like pieces of horse meat than actual human beings. So it is quite deadly. But to fire these weapons, you really only need a team of about 3 soldiers at minimum, and a well-trained gun crew if they skip all the safety steps to actually load and fire these weapons faster than a single soldier could fire his musket off. So you can get some heavy rates of fire as long as you do have enough equipment for it. But we are just about ready to fire this weapon. I will let everyone know it is a real piece of artillery. If you do want to plug your ears, now is the time to do so. If you want a photo with the camera, when the man in the dark coat up there, John, touches that stick to the back of the gun, that is when everything will go off. But because they are artillery, they are quite deaf, so we will need everyone's help here. So on the count of 3, I'll point to all of you guys. If you can yell fire as loud as you can, hopefully they'll be able to hear you, and hopefully the gun's going to go off. But, though unfortunately we do have a target down range, there's nothing down the barrel but black powder, even then we still don't want to fire it at anyone. We'll sit and wait for them to clear out. It does look like we are ready to go now. So on the count of 3, I'll point to you guys, and hopefully we'll get this thing going off. 3, 2, 1. Fire! Fire!
Step it up. Well, there it goes.
Thank you all for visiting us today at Old Fort Erie. If anyone wants a closer look at the gun, simply wait until they yell gun clear. That way we know it's safe. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your visit here at Old Fort Erie.